Hey folks, Dale Davidson here at the Davidson Law Offices. Glad you're here today. We're going to give you some great information on PTSD for special operations, so stay tuned. If you have any questions regarding this matter or anything else regarding veterans or estate planning or whatever it may be, let us know at dearvaguy@gmail.com, dearvaguy@gmail.com. So let's jump into it. PTSD for special operators. Okay, so by the way, thank you for all you special operation folks out there, men and women, for keeping us free, because without you we might be speaking a foreign language instead of English. So thank you so very much. So the rules that apply to PTSD claims come from about 3 basic rules, okay? And there's some variations in there, but 3 basic rules are: number 1, you gotta have some medical evidence that you suffer from PTSD. So that would mean getting a psychologist or medical professional who is qualified to diagnose PTSD. Number 2, there's got to be a link between your medical condition and your service. So, for instance, you have PTSD that you've developed in service. That's an easy connection, right? Because you can say, well, I was in the service and I experienced some traumatic event and caused me to develop PTSD, and I was actually diagnosed in the service. Well, the problem is, what happens if you develop PTSD after your service, okay? And then number 3, and this is where we're getting into a little bit more detail with special operations, is you got to have credible supporting evidence, okay? Credible supporting evidence. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what is that. And what we're talking about is really a stressor statement, okay? So in order to win your PTSD claim, win your special operations, and remember, special operations, most of the stuff that you guys and girls have done or did do while you were in service is secret and classified, so you can't talk about it. You can't say, well, I was over here or I was over there, whatever it was, for fear of retribution or getting in trouble because you've divulged confidential things. So we don't want you to get in trouble. There's some ways we can get around that, because we've got to have that credible evidence, that stressor statement. Again, today we're talking about credible evidence for PTSD for special operations. So what is a stressor? A stressor is a very traumatic event that you were exposed to actual or threatened death, serious bodily injury, something along those lines. Number 1, how do you experience that stressor? Well, directly. You experienced it yourself, okay? That's pretty straightforward. Or number 2, you witness somebody in a stressful situation, imminent death, bodily injury, whatever that may be. And number 3, learning of the traumatic event. So, as to all of that, what are some examples of what we're talking about? So, for instance, we've helped a lot of veterans here with PTSD claims, and it's my heart goes out to them. For instance, we had one, you've heard about the highway of death for in Iraq, where the Iraqi soldiers were being pushed out of Kuwait, and then the U.S. Air Force basically bombed the front and back of the column, and then came in and annihilated the Iraqi soldiers. Now, our veteran wasn't there during the bombing, but he was there in the aftermath. The charred bodies, the stench, the flies, all of those things. So it wasn't his MOS to bury the bodies, but because he was a heavy equipment operator, he was tasked with digging the trenches and then bulldozing the vehicles and bodies and all of those into the trenches. So that is a stressful event. Now, the veteran was not in in the Iraqi theater, but in Honduras, of all places. His MOS was transportation, and his friend was changing a tire. Somehow something happened with the tire, and it decapitated his friend. Okay. Very, very traumatic event. Another one, Vietnam traumatic event, the Battle of Duck Lock. A client was stuck in the foxhole for the entire battle. I think lasted four or 5 days, in the foxhole with his dead brothers. Think about that. The smell, the stench, the fear, all of that culminates into a big, huge, stressful event. So that's when we're talking about stressful events or stressors, that's what we're talking about. But you don't really have had to been in combat to have experienced a stressful event, just like the transportation person in Honduras. They weren't in combat, but had that stressful event when his friend was decapitated. Okay. Combat, although is a stressful event, it's not necessarily the stressful event. So, what do you do when you're special operations? You need, I wasn't there. I can't tell you what I was doing. My missions were all classified. My tour of duty was classified, whatever it may be. Well, the VA has provided us with a fast letter 0952 that gives us a way to corroborate your stressful story or your stressor. Okay. If you would like a copy of this fast letter, just give us a shout at dearvaguy@gmail.com. Be glad to scan it and send it in to you. But as a special operations stressor condition, what do you need to focus on? Don't focus on a single event. Focus on your entire experience. Okay. Because we want your emotions. We want to know what has caused you so much stress that you've developed this PTSD. What were the dates? You can give us dates, right? You don't have to dates and approximate dates that you were in Honduras or wherever it may have been. You don't have to give us the exact date, but you got to give us something so we can give that to the VA so that they can research the records so that they can help corroborate your story, your stressor. So if you claim that your stressor was combat related, okay, but your records don't provide or don't corroborate that, don't support that. Maybe your MOS was transportation, but that somehow, some way you were attached to special operations. Again, that fast letter will help. An example of this was when we had a client who was in Thailand at the Royal Air Force Base during Vietnam, but that was not where he was actually supposed to be stationed. He was somewhere else, according to his records, at the base called Utapah. So we had to enlist the VA to research those records because they were classified, because he has been attached to special operations, but his service records didn't show that. So the VA will help us, but we got to help the VA also, giving them enough information so that they can research those classified documents and orders or whatever they may be out there, records, in order to substantiate your claim. Now, there are other ways to substantiate the claim too. I mean, there's if you don't have any service records, we call them buddy statements. We talked a little bit earlier about the highway of death in Kuwait. Okay, so our individual got 2 buddy statements to corroborate what they were all experiencing in the desert there on that highway with the dead Iraqis and flies and stench and all that. So there's a lot of different ways to corroborate things. Articles, newspaper articles, magazine articles, all of those things, whatever documentation you have pictures, photographs that shows that, yeah, I was there and I lived that stressor. That's what I experienced. Okay, we're trying to bolster your story to the VA. DIC is a complicated area. It's even more complicated when you throw PTSD into the mix. Now, this is what we do. We help veterans and we help spouses of veterans obtain the benefits that they deserve. Now, if you are special operations and you need our help, or spouse of a veteran and you need some financial help, you give us a call. Send me an email at dearvaguy@gmail.com. I've got some information I'd like to share. I've got a Blue Water Navy cheat sheet card that will tell you about the benefits available to Blue Water Navy veterans during and their surviving spouses during the Vietnam War. And then, of course, if you were exposed to Agent Orange and then you have some kind of disability from them. So we're here to help. This is what we do. We love helping our veterans and we love helping the spouses of our veterans. So give us a call. We're here to help you. And until next time, be blessed.
No more whiskey, I'll have a Coke. Catching bass on an old fishing boat. One more story from Grandpa Joe.